Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia reduces gas flow via Ukraine to Europe on the last day of the expiring transit deal. Chinese cyber attack targets US Treasury hackers, access unclassified documents. Beijing calls these claims groundless. And New Zealand ushers in the new year with a fireworks display. Other iconic cities like Sydney, Dubai, Hong Kong prepare to celebrate 2025. Chinese state-sponsored hackers breached the US Treasury Department's computer security guardrails this month and stole documents. The hackers compromised third-party cybersecurity service provider Beyond Trust and were able to access unclassified documents. Meanwhile, Beijing called these claims groundless and politically motivated.
The US Treasury Department said Monday that a China state-sponsored actor was behind a cyber breach resulting in access to some of its workstations. The incident happened earlier this month when the actor compromised a third-party cybersecurity service provider and was able to remotely access the Treasury workstations and some unclassified documents. Treasury contacted the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency after it was alerted of the situation by its provider, Beyond Trust. The compromised Beyond Trust service has been subsequently taken offline. The Treasury has attributed the incident to a China state-sponsored advanced persistent threat actor. An APT refers to a cyber attack where an intruder establishes and maintains unauthorized access to a target, remaining undetected for a sustained period of time. The department did not provide further details on what was affected by the breach, but said more information would be released in a supplemental report at a later date. Bureau Report, DD India.
So here's a brief history of alleged cyber attacks by China on the US and Europe.
Justice indictment revealed that 7 hackers associated with Chinese government were charged with computer intrusions targeting perceived critics of China and US businesses and politicians. Over 10,000 malicious emails impacting thousands of victims across multiple continents were reported. As alleged in the indictment, it was part of a global hacking operation which targeted journalists, political officials, and companies to repress critics of China and its regime, compromise government institutions, and steal trade secrets. May 2024, Chinese hackers hit Britain's Ministry of Defence with a cyber attack that exposed sensitive information on every troop apart from the UK's Special Forces. The attackers targeted a third-party contractor to access names and bank details of current and former members of the armed forces. The UK Minister of Defence stopped short of publicly naming China as the culprit. February 2024, Chinese spies placed malware in a Dutch military network in 2023. The network was not connected to the Defence Ministry's main network, which reduced damage. Netherlands has publicly accused China of cyber espionage. August 2023, Chinese hackers obtained personal and political emails of a US congressman from Nebraska. The hackers exploited the same Microsoft vulnerability that gave them access to emails from the State Department and Department of Commerce. May 2023, Chinese hackers breached communications networks at a US outpost in Guam. The hackers used legitimate credentials, making it harder to detect them. December 2022, Chinese government-linked hackers stole at least $20 million in COVID-19 relief funds from the US government, including Small Business Administration loans and unemployment insurance money. The US Secret Service announced they retrieved half of the stolen funds.
On to Asia now. A South Korean court issued an arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol on Tuesday, who faces a criminal investigation for possible insurrection after declaring martial law on December the 3rd. Yoon's lawyer called the warrant invalid, while supporters and opponents rallied near his residence in Seoul. Some residents called the warrant late but fortunate. Diptantu Kashyap reports.
After being impeached and suspended from power for imposing martial law on 3rd December, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's troubles keep mounting as he now faces an arrest warrant approved by a court on Tuesday. This marks the first ever arrest warrant issued for an incumbent president. Yoon is under investigation for possible insurrection charges, and the court also approved a search warrant for his residence. Opponents outside his home in Seoul are baying for action.
The investigative authorities have issued a summons request, but it has been ignored. As a result, they have obtained an arrest warrant and are proceeding with the arrest. However, even regarding this arrest warrant, Yoon Suk-yeol, who is accused of treason, claims it is illegal and refuses to acknowledge it. Therefore, it is imperative that this arrest warrant is executed and that this individual faces legal consequences.
Supporters of the foreign believe Yoon should have been arrested much sooner for his actions.
Despite repeated summons, President Yoon Suk-yeol has refused to attend, which makes it worse. I believe he should have been arrested when he declared martial law, as it was illegal. Although it feels late, I think the warrant is at least fortunate.
In response, Yoon's lawyer stated that his client's martial law declaration did not constitute insurrection and called the arrest warrant invalid. It remains unclear when or how the warrant will be executed.
The declaration of martial law is a power granted to the president under the Constitution. The president exercised this authority legitimately as part of their duty to protect the constitutional order of the nation.
Even Yoon's supporters expressed their support for the embattled president and opposed the arrest warrant.
The arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol is invalid. I came here to oppose the execution of the warrant. There are a lot of people supporting President Yoon Suk-yeol. So, us and many civic group leaders are gathered here to support.
Once a celebrated public prosecutor known for his anti-corruption efforts, Yoon rose to the presidency in just a few years. However, his tenure has been marred by repeated scandals, culminating in the chaos of declaring martial law and sending troops and helicopters to the parliament, marking a dramatic fall from grace. Tanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
Staying with South Korea, the country's acting president Choi Sang-mok on Tuesday paid tribute to victims of the Jeju airplane crash. Choi was accompanied by a group of officials as he laid flowers and bowed to pay respects at the memorial set up in Seoul. The acting South Korean president on Monday ordered an emergency safety inspection of the country's entire airline operation system as investigators work to identify victims and find out what caused the disaster. Meanwhile, South Korean authorities said on Tuesday that the investigation intensified and they are making all-out efforts to hasten the identification of the 5 bodies still unidentified by adding personnel and rapid DNA analyzers.
We sent DNA samples to the National Forensic Service to identify 32 unidentified individuals. Of those, 27 have been identified. Detailed re-examinations are underway for the remaining 5. We aim to receive and confirm the results as quickly as possible. However, I would like to emphasize that we worked through the night, deploying as much manpower as possible and making every effort to shorten the process.
Now, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has pledged to solidify ties with Russia in a letter to President Vladimir Putin. In his message, Kim conveyed New Year greetings to Putin, the Russian people and their troops in the country, while expressing his willingness to further enhance bilateral relations, which he said were elevated to new heights through new projects this year. Kim and Putin signed a mutual defense treaty in June, strengthening their strategic partnership. North Korea has since deployed thousands of troops to support Russia in its conflict with Ukraine. And talking of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia and Ukraine swapped more than 300 prisoners of conflict in an exchange brokered by the United Arab Emirates ahead of the New Year's Eve. The Russian Defense Ministry said 150 Russian servicemen were returned from territory controlled by Kiev regime. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kiev received 189 people as part of the deal, including soldiers, border guards and 2 civilians from Russian-occupied city of Mariupol. He thanked the United Arab Emirates and other partners for facilitating the swap. Ukraine said that Moscow had released a total of 3,956 people since the start of the conflict. The swap resulted in an emotional homecoming for many prisoners just in time for New Year's Eve. But in the latest escalation, Ukrainian military intelligence claimed on Tuesday that its naval drone had destroyed a Russian helicopter and damaged another one in the Black Sea. Air defenses in Ukraine's capital of Kiev repelled a Russian air attack earlier in the day. Ukraine's Air Force announced a missile threat across the country. According to preliminary information, missile debris fell on a private building in one of the capital's districts, the city's military administration said on Telegram. This comes as Russia's Gazprom on Tuesday said it will pump a reduced volume of gas to Europe via Ukraine. The existing gas transit deal for Russian gas through Ukraine is set to expire from the early hours of January 1st after the current 5-year deal expires. Kiev has refused to negotiate a new transit deal as its conflict against Russia approaches the end of a 3rd year. Russian President Vladimir Putin said last week that there was no time left this year to sign a new Ukrainian gas transit deal, laying the blame on Kiev for refusing to extend the agreement. The Soviet-era Urengoy-Pomeri-Yuzhgorod pipeline brings gas from Siberia via the town of Sudza, now under the control of Ukrainian soldiers in the Kursk region. It then flows through Ukraine to Slovakia. In Slovakia, the gas pipeline splits into branches going into the Czech Republic and Austria. German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser has promised a complete investigation into the Magdeburg Christmas market attack. Faeser, along with security and intelligence chiefs, faced questioning on Monday by a parliamentary committee about the attack that killed 5 people and injured more than 200, and on whether there had been missed clues and security lapses. Faeser said that no motive had yet been established for the December 20th attack in the eastern city of Magdeburg, but there are a striking sign of a pathological psyche.
The investigations are continuing at full speed. The task now is to put together all the findings that paint a picture of this perpetrator. Because the perpetrator does not fit into any previous picture, the indications of a pathological psyche are striking. The thousands of statements made by the perpetrator in numerous networks will therefore be investigated, as will the information and proceedings that have been brought before various authorities and the judiciary in Germany.
And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. Police in Kenya's capital Nairobi fired tear gas to disperse protesters demonstrating against a wave of unexplained abductions of government critics. Some groups of young protesters marched in downtown Nairobi while others staged a sit-in and chanted slogans against the Kenyan government after the alleged abductions of dozens of Kenyans in recent months. The authorities have declined any link to such abductions. Tourists were seen enjoying the last days of gas-powered patio heaters in the historic center of Spain's Barcelona before their use is banned in 2025 because of their carbon emissions. First proposed in 2018, the ban will come into force on January 1st, 2025 after a long battle between the city council and restaurateurs who fear a loss of business from customers shunning outdoor seating areas during the winter. Hundreds of Santa Clauses ran in the 10th traditional race in streets in Skopje, the capital of North Macedonia, on Sunday. The race started at the main Macedonia Square, with many other attractions such as lottery and gift distribution for children also being organized. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on this show. ISRO launches SpaDeX mission, the first space docking mission on an Indian-made rocket. And emerging market stocks and currencies largely subdued on the last trading day of the year 2024.
The year 2024 was marked by some historic elections across the continents, coupled with global unrest. Beat historic third-term win for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with unprecedented mandate, US President-elect Donald Trump making a spectacular comeback. Curtains down for the year 2024. What an year it was.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. In a major milestone, the Indian Space Research Organisation launched its year-end mission PSLV C-60, carrying the space docking experiment or SpaDeX from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. This historic mission aims to achieve a rare feat of docking 2 satellites in space. Just after 10 p.m. local time on Monday, PSLV C-60 rocket lifted from the first launch pad at Sriharikota. Designed as a cost-effective technology demonstrator, SpaDeX will showcase rendezvous, docking and undocking of 2 small spacecraft in low Earth orbit, paving the way for advanced in-space operations.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to announce the successful accomplishment of the launch of PSLV C-60 for the SpaDeX mission. The rocket has placed the satellites in the right orbit, which is 475 kilometer circular orbit. SpaDeX 2 satellites are moved. You would have seen in the animation that they moved little one behind the other. So over the period of time, for the days, it will pick up further distance, travel to almost a 20-kilometer distance away.
ISRO is gearing up to achieve a significant milestone with a geosynchronous launch vehicle mission scheduled in January. It is set to become the 100th launch from the Sriharikota spaceport. Monday's PSLV C-60 mission was the 99th launch from Sriharikota.
For us, this is the 99th launch of any launch vehicle from Satish Dhawan Space Center. So that's also a very important number. So we are going for the 100th launch and in the beginning of next year. In this 99th launch, the PSLV, the Corelon configuration of the PSLV C-60, placed 2 SpaDeX satellites weighing 220 kg into a circular orbit of 475 kilometers.
Following the success of the SpaDeX mission, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State for Space and Technology, praised the team behind the mission. He also highlighted the importance of India's docking system and its significance in space exploration.
This is one of the first experiments undertaken by India as far as the docking technology is concerned. But I think what makes it special is that it is a purely indigenous technology, and that's why it's been appropriately named as Bharatiya docking technology. And that is very much in keeping with Prime Minister Modi's mantra of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
The 18th edition of the India-Nepal military exercise commenced at Saljhandi in Lumbini province of Nepal on Tuesday. The 2-week-long training named Surya Kiran will be attended by Shri Jung Battalion of the Nepali Army and the 11th Gorkha Rifle of the Indian Army. The objective of the exercise is to strengthen regional security and expansion of bilateral relations. The battalion-level joint military exercise focuses on counter-terrorism in difficult geography, establishment of peacekeeping missions as per the UN Charter, and humanitarian aid and relief work in disasters. And on to some business news now. Emerging market stocks and currencies were largely subdued on the last trading day of the year. Asian stocks ended the year mainly in the red after worries about the next year, 2025. Shanghai's composite index closed down 1.6% at 3,352, while stocks in Sydney, Taipei and Wellington were also down. Indian markets too ended in the red, with the BSE Sensex trading over 100 points at the closing bell. In the US, the three main indices slumped around 1% on Monday, adding to Friday's losses. As 2024 is coming to a close, many stock markets around the world have already closed their books, including Frankfurt and other European bourses. So, how was the past year for investors in Europe? Let's find out with Lars Holter. He's with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now. Lars, what can you tell us?
Thanks for having me. Well, it's probably best to start with a headline number. German stock markets are ending the year with gains of almost 20%. That is pretty amazing, and we can definitely call 2024 a bullish year for sure. Now, US and Chinese markets might have performed even stronger, with the S&P 500 up 34%. But looking at German markets, they beat the emerging markets, they beat Japan, they beat most of the other European marketplaces, they beat commodities. And that begs an interesting question. Why? Because generally it wasn't a great year for Germany at all. Politically, after 3 years, the governing three-party coalition has failed. We're currently under a lame duck government heading into snap elections. And looking at the business and economic landscape, it doesn't look too hot either for 2 years now. So this is not just 2024, but even going back to 2023. We've had our quarters alternating between minimal GDP growth and a GDP shrinkage. So you could say we've been going in and out of a recession. Now, as to why markets are so strong, there is some optimism that Germany will find a way out of the current crisis. And since stock markets tend to reflect expectations of the future, that would explain possibly these tremendous gains.
And switching to a more corporate side, what were the main stories in this past year, Lars?
Sadly, they're all pretty much downers. This past year was dominated by businesses worrying about their future, by high energy prices that are threatening to drive some companies out of Germany even, and by companies desperate to cut costs. And some of those companies can be found in the auto industry, which was obviously one of Germany's leading international industries. In 2024 now, all that went wrong in that sector became all too obvious. Brutal competition from China has wreaked havoc on Volkswagen's numbers. For example, the company used to be the biggest car maker in the world, and it's currently no more than a shadow of its former self. Tens of thousands of jobs were on the line until just days ago. 3 plants are in limbo. So again, those bright numbers we saw at the stock exchange, with the DAX climbing to an all-time high of over 20,000 points just a few weeks ago, they don't reflect the reality of most companies.
Okay, thank you very much. Lars Holter reporting from DW Berlin. And New Zealand welcomed the new year 2025 as the clock struck 12 in Auckland. New Zealand became one of the first countries in the world to celebrate New Year's Eve with a spectacular fireworks display from the Auckland Sky Tower to welcome in 2025. And New Year Eve's fireworks in this South African city make it all the more spectacular. From colourful parades to private family gatherings, the festivities reflect a blend of local traditions and global influences. DD India's Nazneen Ismail reports.
Evening from South Africa. As the new year approaches, the air is filled with optimism and sparkling lights as people are abuzz with the festive cheer. The festive mood is infectious, laughter fills the streets, and the sparkling lights around us seem to mirror the brightness in everyone's eyes. There's a feeling of renewal, a fresh start that inspires optimism. Whether with loved ones or gathered in celebration, it's a time to reflect on the year gone by and embrace the possibilities that lie ahead. Together, we look forward to new beginnings, cherishing the moments that make life special, and welcoming a year filled with promise, growth, and happiness.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Have a blessed year. Have a prosperous year. A year that is better than the last. Make next year be your best year. One message, make every day count, moment by moment, live in the moment and enjoy every day. Happy New Year from South Africa!
Happy New Year, South Africa!
From South Africa, here's wishing you a safe, blessed and happy New Year. I'm Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg.
Make every moment count. Well, with those greetings, we from the entire Doordarshan Parivar also extend you our wishes on the new year, which is just a few hours away from now. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. You can download that app both on Android and iOS platforms. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.